Let's welcome Dei Lynam back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Dei, welcome as always. It's that time of the year again.
This is an unusual time on the Philly sports scene. The Eagles are off to a 6-1 start and hoping to make another Super Bowl run. The Phillies were getting all the buzz over the last few weeks. Red October. Of course, that's not going to happen now at World Series. But quite frankly, a lot of people are down on the 76ers after their string of second-round playoff exits and the whole James Harden drama. What is the mood around the team right now as they head to open the season in Milwaukee without James Harden, from what we understand?
Without him playing, though he did
Yes.
rejoin them for practice. So,
Yep.
I mean, there is a clarification I guess we should identify. I will say that Nick Nurse is very positive. He's a guy who walked into this storm knowing what he was going to have to deal with. And I don't think it's unlike what he walked into in Toronto when he became a head coach and the whole trade DeMar for Kawhi. Kawhi didn't want to be in Toronto.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry didn't like that DeMar was traded. It was his best guy. Ibaka became a sixth man. So he's prepared for the storm that he's in right now. And it is a storm, and how it resolves itself or when the storm ends, I don't know what that will look like. But I think they have enough pieces. Yeah, look, going up against Milwaukee on opening night, I think Milwaukee's the better team. They obviously have made some changes also, but they have their key guy in Giannis. Now, some would say we have our key guy in Joel, but I don't feel the same about saying that a glue guy in one versus the other are equal.
The social media being what it is, you can't take much of it for truth necessarily, but a lot of rumors floating around about the Knicks wanting to make a package for Joel Embiid. Anything to that, you think?
I think you put it out there because you want to show your interest. That is not an imminent deal that will go down in any way, shape, or form. I think it's something that you float out there because there's already a problem with the Harden situation. And if you resolve the Harden situation and end up with less, or you end up with assets that are for development, at some point you realize that this is not a championship team. And so then that becomes something that you might pursue because Joel would like you to pursue it, and you realize you cannot build a contender with what you currently have. And now I have to go down that road again.
I don't want to spend too much time on James Harden because we don't know how it's going to play out. But What do you see happening with this guy? He doesn't want to be here. He's got a fractured relationship with Daryl Morey, he says. What do you see happening, and how long can they have him around when he's in this mental state?
Well, I will tell you, I mean, I've been there when he's in the gym, and he does put in the work. Then he left for a while. I do think it's a cat and mouse game. I think James is a guy who is not interested in losing money every night. So the fact that they're not going to take him on this trip for Milwaukee and Toronto, then he's not the one getting fined for that because he showed up and I'm ready to play again. They're the ones making that decision so he doesn't lose money in this. And so it becomes this back and forth. Unfortunately, Nick Nurse is caught in the middle of it. He doesn't, and James doesn't have any bad feelings towards Nick Nurse because Nick to him was not part of what went down. His problems are with the front office. He no longer talks to Daryl Morey. Any communication that happens does go through Elton Brand. He does talk to Nick Nurse when he's in the gym, but Nick's not part of what's happening on the outside. So yeah, it's not like the Ben Simmons because Ben was a different scenario and handled his in a different way, but it has a lot of the same disruptive, disturbing parts of it.
Yep.
Well, in the opener, I guess, these first couple games without him, Are we looking at Embiid, Maxey, Harris, Tucker, and Melton as the starters? Is that how it's going to play out? And is that five good enough to beat anybody?
Good enough to beat anybody. No,
Almost anybody?
No. It can compete against people for sure. No, absolutely. I mean, I personally, I flat out asked Nick Nurse last week, like, can you share what this rotation is going to look like? And he honestly did not know. And there's so many moving parts to this team, partially because of the Harden situation, partially because Nick is new, partially because you lost Niang, you bring in a Kelly Oubre, you have these four centers, none of who can be stretch fours, which is ridiculous to me. The only guy who really could be a stretch four is Paul Reed, and they may eventually go to that, but right now he's going to be your backup five. It's not a great out of the gate situation, but do they have enough talent to beat some of those lower teams? Of course.
Hey, Jaden Springer has gotten a lot of play in the preseason. Looks like he is developing. Do you see Springer as one of the rotation guys? And, how much can he contribute?
So Nick Nurse, his name came up as ninth when I asked about rotation. But Nick said he's pushing me to recognize that he's there, which I appreciate. Look, I've watched this guy in the G League. He does work his butt off. He will play at both ends of the floor. For me, my thing has always been he does not have an outside shot. And when you're undersized, which he is, and cannot make an outside shot, you're just putting yourself in a hole. And, last year he finally got over 30% from three. I'm not saying you have to live and die at the 3-point line, but you have to be able to make a shot. Like 20-something% is not good enough. And, in the open floor, I get it. He'll get up. You'll see him. I mean, he has incredible hops. He'll block shots. He gets steals. He'll keep people in front of him. He'll want to play and get out and run. But when you don't have an outside shot and you're undersized because you're a guy coming off the bench, I think you're at a disadvantage. But he's going to get an opportunity because he plays so hard. And right now they don't know who they are anyhow. So he's taking advantage of the fact that he can show how hard he works.
What do you think, Dee, that the expectation is of Tobias Harris at this point? He's still here. If Harden is not here, Harris certainly becomes a bigger piece. Where do you see that going with him?
Well, I actually think that Nick Nurse was pleasantly surprised to see what he had in the gym with him. But you guys know I'm a bigger Tobias fan over the last couple of years than other people. I think people attached his max contract to, for that, you should produce X. And my point is he consistently gives you what you have asked of him. So when he was asked to be the second leading scorer, the guy was that. Then when Doc came in and you became, the fourth guy after the Harden trade, he still produced consistently for the field goal attempts that he got. So I think Tobias will be used more efficiently and more frequently by Nick Nurse. I think he's become a better defender because of his less use at the offensive end, and I don't think that will go away. I think he will continue to take pride in it. I think he learned how to be a better perimeter defender because he was asked to. So I think Tobias is going to have a really, really good year, to be honest with you.
Got to ask you about Joel Embiid. You mentioned him briefly, but he got the MVP that he so desired last year, and deservedly so, I think. But again, there was, the playoff disappointment. Where is Joel Embiid now in his career? Is he still on the upside, or has he, peaked, and is he going to start, going down a bit now?
No, I don't think we have to say he's going down. I think he's at a point in his career, though, that he needs to show, does he want to does he want to be a leader? Does he want to put a team on his back? Does he want to be a guy who knows how to help a team or lift a team? Look, I know we're talking about the Phillies losing a Game 7 in horrible fashion because of the way the 4 out of the last 5 games went. But if you don't learn about leadership in a Bryce Harper, if you don't learn about when times are tough, Jalen Hurts is not having the same year he had a year ago, but he still finds a way to want to help his team win. Now, I'm not saying Joel doesn't want to help, but I'm saying leadership needs to be shown, right? I understand that the MVP, even though he said it wasn't the most important thing, it was the most important thing to him last year. It was. And that's now done. So show me that when times are tough, you're willing to be the person. And I understand that it's a little more difficult when you don't have the ball in your hands, right? So a Jalen has the ball in his hands. A point guard has the ball in his hands. But you know what? People pitched around Harper. So he would like to help his team. Now, last night was different, but pitching around. But he's still the guy. You feel it. You see it. And I think that's the biggest thing that Joel needs to be this year. He needs to show that he wants to be part of a system that Nick Nurse has put in place. He wants to do the things that are asked of him and show that you're the man. We know you're the MVP. Now be the man.
Yep.
I'm with you. I've been saying that all along. And I think another great examples that you gave there is right there in the NBA when it got to the finals last year, and Joseph put that team right on his shoulders and was not going to be denied.
Yeah.
You didn't give me the MVP, but I'm the guy.
And don't get me wrong. It's not easy, and I'm not asking the person to do it all by themselves. Michael Jordan couldn't do it without Scottie Pippen and those other role players. So I'm not asking you to do it by yourself, but we all can identify and recognize what it looks like when somebody is the leader of a group. And that is not what he has looked like.
Dee, last thing, we would normally ask you for a prediction, but it's almost impossible to predict this year because of the whole Harden situation. I guess my only question is, can the Sixers, even with a healthy Harden who wants to be here, could they compete with the Celtics and Bucks or not?
I think both of them have gotten better, but that's on paper. We have to see how that plays itself out. I do like the changes both of those teams made. I find it fascinating. Boston was kind of forced with contract situations to have to make changes that I don't think they necessarily would have wanted to make, liking their team. Yeah, Marcus Smart was a huge part in the heart of that group. But then you go and get a Drew Holiday. Are you kidding me? Oh, my God. So I would put the two ahead of the Sixers, but more so because I don't know who is the leader of this team in our city that wants to say, come on, we are every bit as good as those guys. I don't know who that is yet. I hope it comes to, I am looking forward to watching Nick Nurse and his coaching and to see what that looks like.